Hi there, this is Chino, and today we are going to talk about one of my favorite topics, the adjective clause. Now, in a previous video, we talked about clauses versus phrases, and clauses and the definition of a clause. And again, just to remind us, the definition of a clause is a group of words with both a subject and a verb. So an adjective clause will have these two elements to them or to it, and it will act like an adjective. And defined, an adjective clause is a dependent clause that modifies nouns or pronouns, which is pretty much the same the same definition of an adjective as a part of speech. However, instead of just a word or two words, we have a dependent clause. Now again, a dependent clause is a clause that needs to latch on to a core sentence, which is why in the examples that we will be taking a look at, we will find, of course, first the core sentence and then the adjective clause that attaches to it, and we will take a look at what exactly it modifies. So the purpose of adjective clauses is to identify or give background information on nouns or pronouns. So first, let's take a look at what are called the common subordinators. So these are called subordinators. And what they do is they precede an adjective clause. So at the beginning of each adjective clause, you would see these subordinators: who, whom, which, that, whose, where, when. They're actually good clues or good signals to tell us that these phrases are in fact adjective clauses. So let's take a look at, these clauses are in fact adjective clauses. So let's take a look at some examples. Now, this sentence is by Charles Portis from his novel True Grit, and it goes like this: Mr. McAllister, who kept the store, was a good Arkansas man. Now, again, what I find most important is, first of all, to look for the core sentence, meaning look for the subject and the verb. So what is this sentence about? Mr. McAllister, subject, and your verb is actually a linking verb here, was. So this Mr. McAllister was a good Arkansas man is your core sentence, and which makes this clause right here in between the commas your adjective clause. Now, what signaled the adjective clause is the presence of the subordinator who kept the store. Now, this adjective clause, like I said, the purpose of an adjective clause is to identify or to describe nouns or pronouns. And in this case, the noun is the subject of your sentence, Mr. McAllister. It actually gives more description, just like an adjective should, to Mr. McAllister. He keeps the store. Now, curiously enough, and we'll discuss this further in other videos, adjective clauses can actually be made into complete sentences. All you have to do is transform your subordinator here to he, pronoun he, and kept the store. These words are retained, and this is actually a sentence by itself. So when joining sentences, adjective clauses become particularly useful. But before we talk about joining sentences and combining sentences, let's take a look at more examples. So J.D. Salinger, his sentence goes, his black hair, which had been combed wet earlier in the day, was dry now and blowing. Now, this sentence is not from the Catcher in the Rye, but I think it's from one of his short stories. But it's also a good example of the use of an adjective clause. So again, taking a look at looking for the core sentence, his black hair, subject of the sentence, which had been combed wet earlier in the day, was dry now and blowing. Ooh. Linking verb right here. So this is your core sentence. His black hair was dry now and blowing. A little bit boring without the adjective clause, which appears right here in the middle. Again, set off by commas, which is your subordinator. And this entire clause becomes your adjective clause, which modifies hair. It's black hair, which had been combed wet earlier in the day. Okay, so if you imagine just slicked back, wet hair, just combed, okay, earlier in the day, okay. And so this clause serves to give more description to hair, just like an adjective. And in fact, if you were to make it a complete sentence by itself, you would just transform which into it. Let's take a look at another example by Alexander Key. Little John, whose eyes were quicker than most, should have seen the whole, but his attention was on the stars. Now, again, looking for the core sentence, we are looking for our subject. In this case, it's Little John should have seen the whole. Should have seen the whole is your linking verb right here. And this is another special case. Not really a special case, but it is, it is a compound sentence because these are two sentences joined by a coordinating conjunction but. And this becomes your other subject, his attention. Oh, I am sorry, my mistake. Attention becomes your subject and was is your linking verb. Okay, attention was on the stars. Which makes this clause over here, whose eyes were quicker than most, your adjective clause. Whose being your subordinator. And if you again want to make it into a complete sentence, just transform this into his. His eyes were quicker than most. Last example. Multiple adjective clauses by our favorite author, one of our favorite American authors, John Steinbeck from Grapes of Wrath. These are men of chemistry who spray the trees against the pests, who sulfur the grapes, who cut out diseases and rots, mildews and sickness. So again, locating the core sentence, I think it's pretty easy to spot. It's right in front. Your core sentence right here is subject. Your linking verb are. These are men of chemistry who spray the trees against pests. Right there is your adjective clause number one. Let's call it AC1. Who sulfur the grapes. AC, oops, it looks like an H. AC2. Who cut out diseases and rots, mildews and sickness. AC3. And they all work to modify men. Okay, this subject right here. Give more description to the word men. And later on in another video, we're going to talk about the different types of adjective clauses, the non-restrictive and the restrictive adjective clauses.